A couple weeks ago, I decided to start going off of my antidepressants. And as I started doing that, I decided that I wanted to share what the process and the experience is like, because I know that I haven't seen a lot of information out there except for what you read on the warning label. I'm hoping that as I do this, I will help take the shame from postpartum depression and other maternal mental health problems. I'm also hoping to destigmatize it, and I want to also help mothers feel less alone, not feel shame about what they're going through, the dark thoughts, the intrusive thoughts, the just everything that comes with it. I want to raise awareness on this because it is so much more common than is talked about. Because as I've started talking about it, I have heard like almost everybody I know has had very similar experiences. I'm hoping that it will help me as I process what I went through before I got on antidepressants and the whole experience of being on them and the whole experience of going off of them. So that is the main reason why I am sharing this, and I hope that it can help you in whatever way you need help. When I had my first son, I had him on March 13th of 2020. So you can kind of guess how that went. Not only was I dealing with motherhood as a new experience, I was dealing with motherhood during a worldwide pandemic. And so it was a little bit lonely. It was hard, and he had health problems. He had some breathing issues. So we had to deal with all of that insecurity on top of the insecurity of the world. But something that happened to me that really made me angry, and the husband's mom came to visit. And just to preface this, I have only met her 2 times. One time when we were dating, and then once at our wedding. The third time I ever met her is when she came to visit when my son was 6 months old. And after the visit, my husband kind of confronted her on a couple things on how she treated me. And her response was to say, "Oh, well, Clara has postpartum depression." And that made me really angry because I knew I didn't have it at that time. And so since being told that I had it by somebody who was not qualified to tell me that I had it, and then actually going through a time where I've had it, it has really helped me see it so differently, because nothing came close to the depression that I felt after I had my daughter, Minietta. To preface all of this, Minietta's whole pregnancy was uneventful, which in the medical world is a good thing. You want an uneventful pregnancy. You want an uneventful birth. It just means nothing adverse happened. But after I had her, I was just flooded with emotions. And I did not have that experience with my son. With my son, it probably took me about 24 hours to feel connected to him. But with her, it was just an instant connection, an instant rush of emotions and probably hormones. However, things did not go as you would expect with her. She was born perfectly healthy, no problems. But within the first 3 months of her life, we started to see oral aversions. She didn't want things in or around her mouth, which is really inconvenient because that's how babies eat. And so it all started when she got her tongue tie released, and that caused pretty severe oral aversion for her. And then that combined with food allergies that I didn't know about just caused me to funnel or spiral, because I obviously was trying to feed her. She wouldn't take a bottle. So I was awake all night long with her. I was awake all day long with her and my son. And I started getting so sleep deprived, so delirious, and just so sunk in this deep hole. It was very scary. I couldn't go to church because I couldn't get her to stop crying. I couldn't sleep. And the scariest part and the hardest part to talk about and be open about is the intrusive thoughts, which, since talking more openly about my experience, I've learned is very common. And a lot of moms don't talk about it because there's so much shame about it. When you have these dark and intrusive thoughts, it's scary. It's really scary. And you don't want to talk about it with people in case they judge you and they're like, ooh, she's going to be a bad mom. And that's not the case. Some dark and intrusive thoughts, these are not my own. I don't want to share mine for reasons I'll share later. But some examples of intrusive thoughts, in case you're wondering if you're having them, is the urge to throw your baby at a wall, the urge to just leave your baby wherever your baby is and just run away. Another intrusive thought is, I wish I never had this baby. I don't like my baby and I don't love my baby. Those are all intrusive thoughts that a lot of women feel a lot of shame for having. And those are thoughts that a lot of people, not even just friends, but like people that I don't really know, told me that they had when I started being more open and honest about my experience. So those are just some examples of them. I also couldn't control myself. There was one night where my baby would not stop crying. I couldn't get her to eat. And she was just screaming. Like, when I say screaming, I mean like uncontrollably shrieking. And I couldn't get anything. I was just overwhelmed. I was at the end of my line, and I just remember I burst into tears. And it wasn't like the cute tears. It was like the ugly, like honking, like snot tears, everything just going on. And it was so loud. And I think so, my crying was just so powerful that like my dog wouldn't approach me. I think it scared her, and it woke my son up, and he came into the room and he was like, "Mommy, are you okay?" And I was like, "No, I'm not, buddy. I'm not okay." And he came in and gave me a hug. And that's one of the times where I knew I needed help. And then another time is I was in the shower, just standing there, letting the water just pour over me. And my wonderful husband, he was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna go get in the shower with her." So he came in the shower, and when he got in the shower with me, I just broke down crying. And he just held me while I just cried in the shower. And that was another thing where I was just like, "Patrick, I'm not doing okay." And so he just held me while I cried. And some more things, I didn't feel coherent. I was just feeling irrationally angry. Everything felt bleak. I couldn't show up for Rufus or Patrick. I had both of my babies out of hospital because I don't like hospitals. With Minnie, it is eating problems, and the fact that she wasn't gaining weight, she wouldn't stop crying. I eventually got counseled to go to the hospital to take her in to get a feeding tube, and I was devastated. I felt like I'd failed. I was just really tense in the hospital. They jammed a feeding tube up her nose. Like, the nurse that came and did it was so grumpy, and he like jammed a tube up my baby's nose, down her throat and into her stomach, and then like left. And I was like, "Excuse me, but could you like help me feed her? I don't know what to do with this tube." And he was like, "We don't have the resources to teach how to do that." And he like left. And then I was like stuck in the ER for like 3 hours with my baby, who had screamed herself to sleep because they jammed a tube up her nose and didn't even bother feeding her. And so I started to advocate for her really strongly. Like, I went and stood out in the middle of the ER trying to get somebody to help me. I did everything that I could, and eventually they took me to a room and they were observing her. They wanted to do all these tests, and I was like, "Can you please just give my baby some food? I came here because she's starving." And so she finally fed her. And it was like the first time in so long that I could tell that she had a full belly. And I was in the hospital for, I think, 1 or 2 nights, I don't remember, with my baby. And the hospital where I live is not equipped for children at all. They don't have great resources for kids here. But at one point I got visited by a social worker. I didn't think much about it at the time, but after I was like, "You have to let me out of the hospital. I don't want to be here anymore. Just teach me how to feed her." And so I could just leave and go home and help be with my son and stuff. And so they released me very reluctantly. And a couple days later, I got a call from CPS because, oh gosh, this is hard to talk about. but the CPS was because the hospital had reported me, because when your child stops gaining weight, it's usually a sign of child neglect. And I know that they did it to like just make sure everything was okay, but it was the most degrading and horrible thing ever to have my integrity as a mom questioned and have to submit myself to state mandated visits. It was the worst. At the first visit, my social worker or whatever was just like, I can tell that you're a really good mom and you're very attentive and that you're not a problem. I just have to do these visits. And so, I mean, it didn't make it easier to deal with. So not only that, but like ending up with a feeding tube made me feel angry. I was angry at God. I struggled with wanting to pray and wrestled with that for weeks, but it was still, I've never been angry at God before, so that was really hard. I sang one of my favorite church songs for children called A Child's Prayer, and it says, Heavenly Father, are you really there? Do you really answer every child's prayer? Some say that heaven is far away, but I feel it closer every day. And that is a song that has brought me a lot of comfort, so I still sing it every day. It's been over a year. I got mad at everybody who was involved in her care leading up to her getting a feeding tube, because now that I look back, I know that it could have been avoided if I changed my diet. It could have been avoided if I went and saw a qualified IBCLC. It could have been avoided if I was also including chiropractic care to help release the tension in my child's body. That's all hindsight. I've had some moms reach out to me with babies that had feeding problems, and I've been able to connect them to resources and help them avoid such an extreme measure. And have been very, very mad at myself for ignoring my intuition. So that has been rough, because my intuition, I knew I needed to go off of those foods, but I was told by somebody I trusted that that wasn't a thing, and I believed her, and that's my fault, but I didn't trust myself, and I regret that every single day. So when I finally shared what was going on social media, I had so many people message me and call me and share with me various similar experiences where one of the people that reached out to me said that one night her baby was screaming and she was holding him, staring at a wall. And she just had this overwhelming urge to throw her baby at the wall. And then her husband walked in and took the baby and told her to go on a walk. Another person, a super duper distant relative, call me and tell me that their pediatrician reported them to CPS. I don't remember why, but for a really stupid reason. I think it was because he disagreed with her on something. I also had a number of friends send me local resources to help get me in the right programs to get my daughter recuperated. And I learned again, suffering in silence does not benefit anybody. When you suffer in silence, that's it. You're silent and you're alone. But when you start to share your story, other people can help you. Other people can reach out. And that was hugely beneficial to me. But my symptoms of depression were still very prevalent. And so I remember one day being overwhelmed with my daughter and my son in life. I texted my doctor and I said, I'm not doing okay. I need help. And so he said, great, meet me at my office. And it was a Saturday. So I went in and I talked to him and he was like, yeah, you need help. And he gave me a prescription for Wellbutrin and told me how to, get myself on that, because you have to do it progressively. I was really hesitant to go on Wellbutrin because I'd once been on, I think it was called Strattera for ADHD, and it made me feel really apathetic and kind of not my own, I guess you could say. But in this specific instance, I knew that I needed the help. I knew that I needed the boost in order to be a better person for everybody around me, my son, my husband, my family. my friends and my community. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm not going to do it forever. I'm going to do it till I know that I can get off. And I remember that I went and I called one of my friends who had been very open about her postpartum depression, and I asked her what it was like to be on antidepressants. And she kind of explained it like, if this is your baseline, when you're depressed, you're down here. And so when you get on antidepressants, they help you get up here. However, it also brings you from up here to down here. So it kind of just levels you out and keeps you on that median, so you don't feel too strongly in any direction. I was like, okay, I can deal with that for a little bit. So I got on my antidepressants. I started on 300 milligrams of Wellbutrin, and once I got to the full dosage, once I weaned myself up to the right dosage, I finally started to feel functional for the first time in so long. It was so wonderful. But like I said, it kind of kept me down here, but it kept me from going too far down here. So that was a really nice experience to have, to finally kind of get my head out of that dark hole that it was in. So I've been on those 300 milligrams of Wellbutrin for over a year now. I'm not crying anymore. I try to wear my blue light glasses to protect my eyes now. Anyways, so it's been about a year, and I was talking to my doctor about when to get off, and he suggested that I wait till summer to avoid the seasonal sadness stuff. So I've been waiting. It's not quite summer, it's spring, but it's sunny and it's nice outside, and we're outside almost every day. So it's finally sunny. I've got a good exercise routine. I'm eating healthy. I am taking the right supplements, and I feel like I have elevated ability to deal with things again. I talked to my doctor about it. He gave me the instructions on how to wean myself off and sent in the prescription. And when I went in to get my prescription, the pharmacist was like, okay, so is this new for you? And I was like, it's not a new drug, it's a new dosage. And he was like, okay, so you're weaning off, just know that you're going to be experiencing withdrawals. And I was like, what? Why would I get withdrawals? And he was like, well, it's a chemical dependency. You could get headaches, nausea, vertigo, all the symptoms. So I was like, okay. I started that last Sunday. So this has been 1 week officially going off of it. I am down to 225 milligrams of Wellbutrin a day, and I'm doing that for 2 weeks. So this is my first week on 225 milligrams. I'm going to grab my journal because I want to share a little bit about what that experience has been like. 1 second. Sorry about all the sniffing. I was not expecting to cry. So just for a brief overview of what it's been like, I've been having really lucid dreams, which has been really weird. I find myself staring off just like that for I don't even know how long. I've not been feeling as present. I've been feeling all kind of fuzzy, just like in my mind and my body, feeling disconnected, and I've been having random weird urges to cry. And I just wanted to see and kind of highlight a few things. So I've been doing 75 milligrams of Wellbutrin in the morning. Oh, sorry. 2 75 milligram pills in the morning and 1 75 milligram pill in the evening. I had one of my really good friends say, if you need to extend that period, that is fine. There is no shame in that. You can extend it. So it could be longer, but it's at least a 6-week process. On day 1, I as soon as my husband got home from work, I just fell asleep for an hour. It was so random. I don't do that. I have a really hard time sleeping. And speaking of having a hard time sleeping, I've been having an extra hard time sleeping. Like last night, I could not fall asleep until after 3 a.m. It was really frustrating. But I've been taking my vitamin D supplements and some other stuff that my naturopath has given me, and that has helped. On the days where I keep myself active, so going on hikes, going on walks, going on play dates, being outside and gardening, those are during those times I feel really good. But then when I don't do stuff like that, I start to feel the staring off, the not feeling present, the weird urges to cry come back. So let's see, on day 2, I started feeling intermittently disconnected, almost like in a brain fog. I wrote case in point, writing the title backwards. Weaning that's not going to focus. It says weaning 2-day, like 2-day, not day 2. So there's that. Day 3, I had a really intense dream that I adopted a baby. And then I had another dream the next night that I went to Norway to visit my friend, but totally forgot to visit my friend, which is super weird because I've been wanting to visit her forever. Let's see, the brain fog has continued through day 3. I was feeling scattered and foggy. Detox days 5 and 6. I felt good most of the days. My husband and I went to a concert on Friday night, and that was just so much fun. So if I could go to a concert every single night, I'd probably do just fine. Hike in the morning, go to a concert at night, I'd be fine, but that's unrealistic. That day was fun and full. Okay, so one of the interesting things is, like I said, I keep finding myself staring off, which I don't think necessarily is a symptom of detoxing. I think it's more, I do have ADHD, and I was talking to my friend about it, and she suggested that perhaps as I'm going off the antidepressants, I'm starting to notice my ADHD again, because I refuse to medicate for that. So here's the thing is, I don't want to research it too much because I don't want to convince myself I'm having a symptom that doesn't exist. So I'm just allowing myself to be very present as I'm going through this process and letting it be as natural and uninfluenced as possible, which is why some of this stuff might not sound like anything you've experienced, but I think it's just different for everybody because all of our brain chemistries are different. I saw a couple friends yesterday, and one of them asked what was new, and I told her, I was like, oh, I'm going off of antidepressants. And she was like, oh, I've done that before. And it's just interesting. I've had a lot of people say that to me, and some of them have done it or haven't been able to do it. They just can't. And some of them have gone off of it, and it has been a crazy, weird experience. They've experienced passing out, dizzy spells, all that random stuff. I have not gotten to that point. Hopefully I don't. I wrote a whole list right here. I felt like crying, but I couldn't. I didn't feel present. My head feels and felt fuzzy. I kept staring at nothing. I feel overall blah. My body almost feels numb. So anyways, that is a summary of week 1. But it has been really empowering to tell people because I feel like I'm able to be vulnerable, and through my vulnerability, I'm allowing other people to be vulnerable and giving them permission to share their experiences. And so please follow along as I continue to share, and let me know if you've had any experience or what interesting symptoms you felt, or if you have any reservations or hangups about going on antidepressants. I'm not a medical professional. I am a certified and licensed recreational therapist, and I'm a certified and licensed life coach, and I coach mothers. So please subscribe so that you can follow along and join me in this journey. Let's support each other. I'm all about women lifting up other women, so let's lift each other up and help each other through the hard times. Thank you for listening. Hope you have a good day.